So first of all, I'd like to appreciate you for taking your time and accepting our interview. My first question is, would you please first provide us with a brief background on your education?
Yes, so I was born and raised in Brazil, and I did my undergraduate work in São Paulo in Brazil in international affairs. Then I did my master's degree in international affairs as well at Columbia University in New York City. And then I did my PhD in anthropology and education, which was a combined degree between anthropology and education at Teachers College.
Would you please tell us a little more about your recent research projects?
So my recent research projects, they have to do with the experience of immigrants in the United States, specifically immigrants from Latin America. So I am trained as an anthropologist, so I'm really interested in the social cultural aspects of life of immigrant families and children in the United States, and writing against the linear type of perspectives of assimilation in the United States, but really thinking about what are the different experiences that children go through, whether they have to do with understanding the U.S. system of education or the language piece or families understanding, how to participate and to help and support their children in school. And also, I'm interested in the transnational ties between children who are in the United States and the rest of their families that are in their country of origin.
Good. And what are the contributions to this body of knowledge and community in general? The contribution of your research.
What I hope to contribute with this research, I would say there's two main contributions. The first one is from a policy perspective. I would like that to be something that schools and districts can reflect on when they're thinking about what to include in the curriculum of what children are learning in the United States. I also want them to reflect on language policies in school or how they plan on reaching out and involving parents in schools. So understanding better the lives of these particular immigrant families should serve as a huge help for policy to be made. The second piece is to help on the well-being of children and to kind of understand from their perspective how it is that they're feeling inside the classroom, what they make of education, what does classroom interaction and learning means to them. So I'm really interested on kind of leveraging and focusing on the points of view of children as opposed to kind of this heavy adult-centered take that most of us do in education.
And my next question is related to kind of the current trends or current perspective in the area you're doing research now. What are those current trends in your area of research?
So in immigration and education, there's several trends, right, happening in research. You have the more classic approaches to immigrant education that are sociological, that assume a linear progression, whereas a child would assimilate to the host country, right? So that's kind of on one end. The other end of that assumes a transnational fluidity to identities and how children of immigrants and immigrant children themselves are constantly negotiating their identities inside and outside of the school. So I hope that the trends are going more and more to this other piece, which has to do with the fluidity of their identities and understanding that they're more than English language learners, that they're more than, just the learners of English, but they carry with them their funds of knowledge. They know things already, and we should leverage on the things that they know as opposed to on the deficit approach of what they don't know. So I think that the trends are more and more moving towards understanding what children bring as opposed to focusing on what they don't have.
I see. That's great. And how do you think for our graduate students can learn more about your research? Suppose I'm a graduate student, okay, I'd like to know more about the area you're working on. So can you introduce some seminal books or articles that
Yes.
give you a big picture of your area of research?
Should I show the book?
Yeah, why not? Sure.
Because she has it right here. That was my joke. But so I wrote this book, Motherhood Across Borders, which, it was a 3-year ethnographic research between Mexico and the United States that looked at how children who were in Mexico and also were brought or born in the United States, how they fare in education. So for me, this is my first attempt to kind of through an ethnography and an in-depth qualitative study to show the complexities that children go through when they have to either stay in the country of origin when their parents leave or go with them and then kind of have to figure out how to navigate the educational system. So I think this is the starting point. I have other articles in journals like the Anthropology and Education journal, and that also help you kind of understand the ethnography part of it. There's another piece on children and society, which is human development journal, and on urban education, that kind of all look at the complexities of children in both sides of the border and how we can understand children's trajectory. We can't understand children's trajectory simply by looking to one side. We have to look at transnationally how they're faring and how they're doing.
Okay, great. And my last question, what are some controversial issues in your research area?
So some of the controversial issues in my research area are really how people understand what they should be doing for immigrant children. I think that the backdrop in the United States right now, it's a highly polarized moment for immigration policy and reform. So people have, you see a lot of xenophobia and racism that is happening, and that really trickles down to classroom and to children, right? So I think that the controversial piece here is macro policy impacts children's lives. And I think that if we don't make that connection, right, we're missing how to think about their well-being in a much better way. But because people have different views on immigration policy, it may put the education of children at risk because we're not thinking about what it means to deport a parent, right? What does that do to the security, to the safety of these children that are going to school? We're not thinking about how to better train teachers to respond to those new trends that we're seeing in international policy. So I think that the controversial piece on ideology in politics really trickles down to the well-being of immigrant children in schools.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you indeed.
Thank